Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Welcome to
Ah.
another episode of the Nissan Nerd Podcast.
Yeah.
Episode number 69. We got a lot going on for you in episode 69, dude. We got to go
Giggity.
ahead and we've got Nissan marks 40 years of manufacturing in the U.S. Also, Nismo is involved with a recent fashion statement. And lastly, June 20th just passed, otherwise known by us Nissan nerds at 620 day. So we are going to be chatting about our favorite mini truck, the Datsun 620, on this episode of the Nissan Nerd Podcast.
Let's go for it.
Oh,
Oh yeah.
69, dude.
I didn't think we'd get this far, bro.
I didn't think we'd get as far as 69. 68, maybe. But 69 to actually get, what is that, first base, second base, third base?
That's probably beyond the bases, man.
That is
You're
beyond the bases. We're at a
that's
comfort level where we're doing weird
that
things with our
that's when
bodies.
things start getting yeah,
Okay, and
exactly.
for those children that are listening, you might as well just sign off tonight. It's just going to be a slew of just
Yeah.
inappropriate
I
joke. I'm just kidding. Now we'll be
I
okay.
funny story, man. I was talking to my brothers, which are obviously the younger brothers, being super silly. They were talking about a possible skit. They're like comedians at heart, right? They're like, what if there was like a montage or a short video of a dude that was so obsessed with the number 69 that he took it with him everywhere he went? Where like he he's like at a job hiring phase and they're negotiating a salary and they're like, you know what? We're prepared to offer you $72 or 72,000 a year or some number. He's like, you know what? I need you to go ahead and offer me 69,000. Just like
And
he
then and he's
undercuts
just waiting
himself.
for it. He goes, but we don't want to offer you that. And he goes, all
He's
right.
all,
Hey,
it's sort of my
they're
thing.
like, can we give him less money? Yeah, we can give him less money. And they're like,
They're,
we're gonna offer you 69. And he gets up 69, just with Bill and Ted, the
yeah,
reactionary. That'd be pretty. You know, that is
it's so
a
dumb, but
SNL skit
yeah,
that would end up on the floor. But yes, like the cutting
could it?
room floor. But yeah, not too bad. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, we are total dorks. We haven't seen each other in a while. I think the last time I saw you, we were doing what we're supposed to be doing, is working on cars, right? So
Yeah, dude, we totally were. So in the last, one of the last things we spoke about as we were exiting um,
the exit
the
interview.
the last episode that we had, yeah, we were talking about, hey man, what if we had this engine bay on my 300ZX? Hey, you want to start going after it and start painting it, you know? And sure enough, that's one of the things we did here in the last 2 weeks. For those of
Yeah,
you who see
you
us
let me talk you
online, the
into it.
video portion of all this, yeah.
Oh
Um,
man. By the way, your tags
the
are expired. So
That-
just kidding.
oh, is that my main issue right now? My
That's your
tags,
main
right?
issue
Yeah.
right now, is your tags are expired.
Mm.
Anyway,
S-
so we
So what we
we pulled the
were,
engine
go
out
ahead.
sometime back, and then we started
Mhm.
prepping this thing. Tell them the story.
Yeah. So the whole purpose behind this, the engine developed a rod knock, and as we had this engine pulled, we're doing a swap with a another used engine that is in working condition. And we said, while we're here, the engine's out. This was something that I really wanted to do the first time we pulled the engine, which for those who own 300ZXs, you know that pulling the engine is a regular occurrence that happens every, what would you
Eh,
say, 18 months, maybe, not
I
24
say 3
months?
years if you're a good boy and you watch a
Yeah.
good boy or girl and you're watching your stuff.
So for me, it was pretty much 2 years. So now this engine being out, we said, you know what? Let's go ahead and scuff, paint, do some clear coat. Let's make this engine bay look really, really pretty. So that was what we were doing here 2 weeks ago. Again, for you guys online, if you see what we're doing here, engine's out, harness and other components are towards the center of the engine bay. And then we've got here, of course, scuffing, sanding, getting rid of all the high points. Miles, you were very adamant, and you were showing me a lot about this. This is actually my first engine bay that I've done, or I am doing. So you were providing a lot of really good
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
feedback.
I would say it's not professional masking. I mean, it's we did our best with what we
Yeah,
had. I mean, we were just going to basically what we do is basically a scuff and shoot is what I was really planning for. There was a few things that we needed to get done. I mean, we had to obviously detrim everything, start pulling everything inward. I mean, if you're going to do the whole full restoration, you really got to pull the harness out. You got to pull the brake lines off, cap everything, plug everything so contaminants don't get in the lines and stuff like that. But for what we had and how bad that engine bay was, I think so far it's pretty good. We obviously took everything apart. You can just go through the photos. So we
cool.
started masking stuff off and just doing what we wanted to do as far as starting to prep everything, and it was so hot. It was like 100. It felt like 120 degrees, and we had a canopy. We had with your coverage in the front, and it was just so hot.
So much, dude.
But either way, we got it done. We got everything started mask up, and yeah, we used foil, and that's a hot
I
rod f- technique, but it
it,
works.
it works
I've
so
used it
well.
in the
I learned.
past, and it when you're trying to get around components and you don't want to bag mask or something like that, and it to me it works. I mean, we double bagged everything either way, so
Yep.
the chances of overspray are pretty minimal. So we just did it for our own benefit,
Just as much overlapping.
yeah, as we could possibly
I bought
get.
like
So
four rolls of
we're
foil. I
definitely
didn't care
doing
if we
it
had extras.
Eastwood in the garage kind of mentality. So
DIY for sure.
definitely
The guy,
DIY. So we did it on the cheap. I think we're in for like $200 for an engine bay paint. So we'll get it done when everything's said and done. But well, it's all about putting the prep. I mean, 60% of a paint job is the prep. So even though it's an engine bay, it'll still look a hell of a lot better than what was on there before. I think it's gonna look pretty good, and you'll be happy once we're all
yeah,
done with everything.
I'm
So
already happy as it is, man. I mean, we up till now where we're currently at, we've applied the building primer to kind of level out any of the low spots now, and then soon enough here, man,
to
when it
hide everything, yeah. So we'll go back through and we'll just do a quick sand, prep everything a little bit more, and then we'll start laying down some color. So we'll go from
right.
there.
I think what we're doing all right, man. I think I thank you so much for your help on this.
Yeah,
I've had
happy to help.
a hell of a time learning a lot about this, though. But guys, for you
It's
for
not
those
over
seeing
yet.
this,
We
we'll
still
definitely
got a
give you
lot
more
more
updates.
sanding and a lot more work to do. We still got to lay paint and maybe a dash of clear, and then you'll like it when when it's all done with the engine bay the way you're doing it. It's just it's like putting a beautiful wedding ring on a hoof. It's just it's like sometimes the hands in the picture got to look good too. You know what I mean? So I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know why I thought of that. Anyway, moving along, but
me
I'm
either, man.
glad you're happy, and we'll definitely move on down the line and get it all done here for you. It's still moving, so
Yeah, man. Aside from that, though, dude, I tell you what, it's been 2 weeks, and
mhm.
both weekends, I got to tell you, man, I've got more to share with you. We did actually, myself, I believe you were busy at the time, but myself and a few others, we were able to support Nissan, some fellow Nissan fans, Nissan nerds, and I could
Mhm.
tell you more about that as well. And I'll share my screen on this.
Oh, nice.
Of course, yeah. So, of course, here in the picture, myself, of course, Ion, for those who know Ion, and with us also is Miss Haley Myers, Myers Motorsports, who's with us on tonight. I believe she did have
Oh yeah,
a few
she's here with
comments
us
to
tonight.
share with us so far.
She'll be commenting and
Awesome.
chiming
Yes.
in along with anybody else. So you guys are
Yeah.
spending a lot of time together. Um,
We are.
something going
Yes,
on
man.
there? Well, I meant with Ion. I didn't know if things were getting serious with you and Ion, or I'm just joking. But
Ion and
I mean,
I
either
have been
way,
serious for
there's
years.
nothing in this day and age. There's nothing wrong with any of that. That's awesome.
It,
So I'm
it's
happy for the two
2023,
of
bro.
you. Hey, I would think that you and Haley would be more of a match, but that's just me. But
Well, that's what I was trying to say before
oh,
you and Justin. Yeah. Yeah, man. honestly, for myself and with actually spending more and more time here with Miss Haley, and you know, uh, honestly, it's been a hell of a time. We're both Nissan nerds at heart, and we've learned that we've got a lot more in common as well. And oh man, we're just decided to be each other's passenger and our own Nissan
Be
nerds. And
each other's passenger
oh,
and
the sit passenger, you know what I mean?
and the ride of life.
Shut.
So are you guys? So I'm assuming this is your way of trying to say that you're dating each other.
Yes, yeah, we're
Kudos. Yes.
we're doing good. Thank
All
you so
right.
much, man.
Well,
Appreciate that.
well, well, so I didn't mean to put it out there in the ether, but yeah. Well, congratulations to the you two of
Oh,
you. I hope you don't get on each other's nerves too much, and I wish you
yeah.
longevity in your relationship. And yeah, I think you guys make a
Uh,
cute couple. Um, you
Well,
know, I
thank you, man. Appreciate that. I'm super excited.
well, it's
Yeah.
still a long way to go. It's you're in the
As with
entry
life.
level phase. You guys are just getting the wrappers off of each other. Well, hold on. You're just learning
You want
things
to
about
rephrase
each
that,
other.
Moss?
Yeah, I will rephrase that. You were just learning things about each other, and it gets interesting, and you learn to develop a lot more caring for one another
Hmm.
as a relationship builds and things like that. But
Oh,
we're not here to talk
it's
about those type
growth,
of
man.
things here on the Nissan Nerd Podcast. Again, just wishing you well,
Yes.
and you can log on to my podcast,
Thank you.
fixing other people's romantic lives podcast.
You're the Dr. Phil of Nissan. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I also have a Nissan Love podcast starting up here soon. But let's go ahead
All right,
for
all
the
right.
few people that are on with us here tonight. I know it's one of those
Yeah.
kind of nights. People will kind of chime in as we go, but let's go ahead and do a
Yes.
salute. We'll go ahead and do our normal compi to those in the Nissan
Yes.
family whom we wish good health, and to those we may have lost. May we be reminded of them often. Little
Guys, if
compi.
you could join us, kanpai. Yes. Woo.
Mm. So we got some news to talk about here tonight. And so, for those that don't know, our Nissan news segments, this is where we reach out and scour the internet and share an article we like regarding Nissan, Datsun, or even Infinity. Articles are sourced from official Nissan newsrooms, and from media outlets at large. So we get it from everywhere. So, Mike, you've got the first article coming up, and this is talking a little bit about um, a a mark that Nissan has just recently hit in regards to manufacturing, correct?
A very huge mark. It is very much a milestone. Something to be very proud of. Nissan is marking 40 years of manufacturing in the U.S. Specifically, they're talking about their first manufacturing plant in the U.S., which is built at the Smyrna, Tennessee area. A lot of people just call it the Smyrna plant. 40, 40 years, man. Um, what I thought about doing was just to kind of talk about a little bit of uh, some of the results that this plant has had, not only by the numbers, but also about the influence that Nissan has had in the U.S. since then, and specifically in Tennessee. Um, just to preface this, though, Miles, you and I were based out of San Antonio, which has also been a growing automotive town
Hmm.
and within the last 20 years. And I know certainly we've seen growth and very many positive things as a result of it. And the same goes for Nissan and with Tennessee. And so this article comes from the Nissan newsroom, US newsroom, talking about this plant, Smyrna plant. The announcement of the plant began in 1980. The plant was completed in 83, and I'll share a few pictures here. The first vehicle was a white Datsun 720 pickup.
20. Hmm.
Yeah, which is really cool. Us being mini truck fans as it is, man, this was one of them. The very first. Um, Nissan was also the first Japanese manufacturer to build a facility in the southern US. Prior to 1983, there were other import or Japanese manufacturing plants in the U.S. However, they were all more northern based. I believe Detroit, for example, was one of them. But getting into what we know now, Mississippi, Tennessee, Texas, um, there are many southern states that have multiple automotive plants, and Nissan was the first to really set that trend, which I think is a feather in their cap. To date, there are approximately 20 million vehicles and 13 million engines that have been produced from the Smyrna plant. I've got a few other pieces of information here. This talks about the amount of investments and again these numbers that come from the Smyrna plant and also from their Deckard plant, which is also in Tennessee. Not 40 years, but it is it's still very much in use, and I imagine it reaching 40 years in the future, though. But other models: Nissan Leaf, Nissan Maxima, the Rogue, Infiniti QX60, amongst many of the vehicles that were produced out of this plant. And then again, getting back to the economy, man, Nissan has done a lot for the community and for the state since they've been involved uh, with their Smyrna plant. For example, their Nissan employees and team members have devoted over 43,000 volunteer hours. They've built 38 homes for Habitat for Humanity. There are nearly $26 million of donation to United Way, another 2 million in educational scholarships, and 36,000 pints of blood donated to the American Red Cross. That's just the tip of the iceberg of the amount of influence that Nissan has had. So uh, I just want to give props, and this very much was a celebration. I don't know if I mentioned the exact date. It was June 18th, so just 4 days ago. It was the 40th anniversary. So I think it was very much noteworthy. It is some of those type of celebrations that become they kind of get overlooked. And that's kind of what the Nissan Nerd podcast is. It's celebrating the most smallest things. Again, it's big, but it's not as popular or fashionable to celebrate these things, and that's what we do. So, um, just want to
And
bring
for
that to
those
light, man.
Yeah, no, and for those that don't know, we actually watch a lot of uh, these givebacks, if you will. And it started, I think, with us. What started around COVID time, because you and I started noticing all this around the time that Nissan changed production into making masks for people, because there was a
Yes,
huge shortage. Remember that when that occurred? And so
yes.
we always knew that Nissan was giving back, but not at the levels that it did, because I started following actually a really good Facebook group. For those that don't know, it's actually here on my phone, but it's the Nissan Smyrna, SMYRNA, building more than great cars. And I started following the page primarily because it actually shows pretty much every weekend or every other weekend there is something that Nissan is doing at the Smyrna plant where they are giving back. It's a huge part of who they are and what they represent there in Tennessee, because they are such a huge footprint and they are very much now embedded in that town. But you could see them giving blood. Recently, they were doing food bank. Something we didn't notice, we didn't mention on here, but Second Harvest Food Bank of Middle Tennessee. They were just recently doing that. And then they do a bunch of things for employees all the time. And here they are building more houses, and I've been watching it, and it's one of those things that actually uplifts me every morning. So when I'm like kind of starting my day, I'll usually go to that website and it just kind of makes me smile. They do a lot of good things. So if you ever want to see how Nissan um, is what they're doing in their own backyard as far as Smyrna is concerned, definitely check out that Facebook group again. Nissan Smyrna, building more than great cars.
Yes.
So I would highly recommend checking that out.
Absolutely, man. And one last thing to mention as well: this Smyrna plant, and also I believe the others, these plants are making transitions from the engine manufacturing or internal combustion engine manufacturing, and they're transitioning to what they're calling, of course, the electrified future. This is part of Nissan's Ambition 2030 plan that we've mentioned many times throughout the last few months, and many of these plants are being retrofitted Same building, but just tons of investment in the machinery inside these factories. Always improving, always preparing for this new EV wave. There is a really good website. This is actually relatively new. Nissan is promoting this as saying if you are curious to know more about their manufacturing operations, you can go to nissanmanufacturing.com. And I think I did have one page here I could share it, and it will give you an insight as to some of the transitions, or maybe even current operations that are happening inside multiple plants, more than just the Smyrna plant, and it really lets you know what they're doing. And it's really fun. I've been able to look at this here within the last couple days, and it's cool. Again, numbers. We're nerds, man. We're looking at this, all the stats, and this is exactly what this website gives us. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, very cool article, man. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
So let's move on into our next article. The next piece that I
Yes.
actually want to kind of talk about is something that just kind of came across the wire within the last few days, and just prior to the new Formula E race that's coming up here in Portland.
Yeah.
So well, obviously we follow Nissan, we follow Nismo as well. This actually came up on the Nismo feed on the Instagram, and Michael shared in the background here. But
Yeah.
ultimately, ahead of this week's inaugural Portland E Prix, the Nissan Formula E team have launched a stylish new streetwear collection based on old racewear from Nissan. Now, titled Nismo Thrifted, the collection has been inspired by Nissan's tireless commitment to carbon neutrality and sustainability by 2015. This is one of their current goals. As
Hmm.
well as being based around the manufacturer's goal, the collection is also in reconnection of incredible motorsports history dating back to over 85 years. Whilst Nissan has been involved in racing for almost a century, their dedicated motorsports division Nismo has been around since 1984. The reason for launching the collection in Portland is because the city is one of the greenest in the United States. As being there myself, I can completely agree, making it the ideal backdrop for the launch. The collection itself has been made using secondhand clothes to show that something incredible can be made from something which would otherwise simply be thrown out. In doing so, Nissan
Wow.
are hoping to promote a carbon and waste-free future by pushing for less clothing to end up in landfill sites. Behind the clothing line alongside Nissan is U.S. sustainable fashion designer Mia Diamato, founder of Boho Basement. The
Okay.
collection has incredibly been made using iconic upcycled retro Nismo race suits, as well as Nissan teamwear and other merchandise. So Nissan team principal Tommaso Volpe is very happy for the side to have worked with Boho Basement on the clothing line ahead of this weekend's inaugural trip to Portland. While Volpe recognizing that upcycling is becoming more popular. So he wanted to chime in here and say, we're happy to collaborate with Boho Basement on this Nismo thrifted collection to commemorate our first visit to Portland, which it is.
That's pretty
We're always looking for innovative solutions to contribute towards a carbon free and zero waste future, not only when producing cars or racing, but across all the aspects of our operations. So,
that's that's pretty cool, man. I So there's two things I thought about this article as you were talking about it. The
mhm.
first one is I know exactly why you picked this article numerous
Why?
times. Yeah,
Whatever do you mean?
yeah. No, how it I can't even count the number of times that you've on this show debuted a new sorry, not new, vintage new, yeah, you're wearing one right now.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. What are you
T-shirt,
talking about? This has
jacket.
nothing to do with the show. This is just my normal
Well,
attire.
I know. Well, you've done it on the show because it is all Nissan related. But you love, and I love it too, the vintage shirts, hats.
Oh,
What do you got there?
no. Check
Uh,
that out. Like, this is
oh,
a pair of Dickies coveralls.
yeah.
Now, my stitching is about as good as my welding. So I'll get there one day. But yeah, man, like, dude, I always got patches on the ready, baby. You know how I
Yeah,
do.
yeah.
So look, bam, right there,
Mhm.
bam,
You
bam.
got
I'm telling you.
so
Oh, dude, that's it.
see, you should work for Boho Basement. Is that what you're trying to say? Are you trying to get you're trying to get
I
in?
it sounds like they're doing an amazing job already with what they have,
Yeah.
and they're probably gonna do some amazing cool stuff and inspire me to do even more crazy stuff. But
Well,
yeah, that's the thing. It's like when you can take something ordinary and throw a vintage patch on it. I mean, it pays homage to the brand, and it basically sauces up something. And I'm hold on. If I had glitter, I'd throw it. If we had the budget for glitter,
yeah.
for virtual glitter, I would throw it out there. But yeah, man, if it adds, it brings new life into something old and would otherwise be thrown out. And you know me, I mean, you've been out with me
Yeah.
before where I take like an old like red cap jacket or an old Dickies jacket that's like 20 years old, and you're like, dude, like what is with the old dirty jacket? And I was like, ha,
No,
what up?
no, yeah.
And then a month later, I come back and it's all full of patches, and people were like, damn. I was like,
Yep.
that's how
Yep.
you do, man. I'm telling you. And there's
Yeah.
not enough people doing that. So if you're at home when you are in your garage, just something to think about. Take an old pair of your coveralls, maybe throw a stitch on them, throw an old patch on them, pick up a old patch off of eBay, and then make something cool out of it. You know,
Yeah.
design and inspiration doesn't have to start and stop with our cars. Some of
It,
that stuff can go into some of the fashion
and
pieces
it
of it.
doesn't have to be all new materials too. I mean, retro has always there are a lot of
No, the
things that
used stuff is the best, man. All the If
yeah,
you could take something old and
it's
make it cool
character.
again, yeah,
Yeah.
it's character, man. I don't know. That's just my 2 cents. But
Yeah.
I'm very much behind the Nismo Thrifted. If you're interested in checking that out, again, you can check that out through the I think it's hashtag Nismo Thrifted, if I
Mm,
remember.
yes.
And that's what we're going to be following. You can also follow the Boho Basement on Instagram as well. That's where I found them. We'll continue to give you some updates. We'll put it up on our Facebook page and our Instagram page and try to share in what they're trying to attempt to do as we get very close to the race, which is on 2-3, which is
Yes.
tomorrow. But we'll continue to flaunt that if we can and help promote that for that thriving business. So yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Last up here on Nissan News before we move on, and this was actually a late addition to
yeah,
our podcast
just
because
today.
it just today this was released, and we'll go ahead and talk about it here. And that is Nissan and the new Nissan Z Nismo has been teased ahead of its launch. And this is something which, if, for those who follow social media specifically regarding the new Z, we've seen test vehicles, we've seen them, in camouflage. People are always a speculation of Nismo. Is this the Nismo edition? And well, now we've got a little bit more to kind of bite on from Nissan themselves. I'll share this video here in just a second, though. But Nissan has released a YouTube video, roughly, oh, not it's not too long, about a minute long here, though. But
Yeah,
it does show the new Nismo Z being driven by three-time world champion, Formula Drift
world champion.
champion Chris Forsberg,
Hmm.
and it's actually a rather exciting video. You see the body lines, you see what you know changes they made to the arrow, and also I gotta say I love the color. It very much is in line with what the Nismo GTR is right now, that bluish. Which, by the way, I don't think I've ever seen a Nismo in blue up until this time. It's always been red, black, white, really, I think those are like the main three colors. So to see a Nismo edition car that is not in those three, Nismo colors is, I want to say, a first for many of it, though. From this article, though, there was no details as of yet as to its performance of how it's different. We know it's going to be different, but we don't know by how and by how much. But they are saying that to stay tuned for full details later this summer. I'm going to share a quick snippet of this video here. Let's go ahead and take a look. Again, you've got Forsberg, twin turbo Nismo, the new Z. Have you had a chance to enjoy this, Miles?
Oh yeah, yeah. I've already watched the video like 9 times.
I'm enjoying it, man. Nothing, nothing's better than dead silence as we watch this video.
like you watch things and it just says applause or something like that, and it
Yeah, yeah,
goes
yeah, yeah.
just dead silence is what we put on there. No, the reality is I don't know why we don't run audio on our show, but yeah, if you get a
Ah,
chance, you should definitely check out the video. It is actually they did put a lot of effort into it, and of course Chris Berg does a great job, of course, ripping around with it. So yeah, I was glad to see the launch for the new Z. I mean, we've known that it was coming down the pipeline for some time. Couldn't really talk too much about it, but and then you never know. Sometimes stuff gets pulled, but the fact that it
yep.
finally was released publicly, and I think it was the right choice to go with that particular color for the first
Yeah.
one because I absolutely love that color.
It's such a nice color, man.
It
It's
was
nice.
the is that the same shade that they use on the GTR? Because didn't you just see it?
I want to say so. I'm almost like 99% confident that it is the
It's a
same
good
color.
color.
It's a good color, man. And then when you transition that with the red accents that are on the ground and the arrow,
It looks
nice
good.
touch. Nice touch.
Nice combination.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. Before we move on to our next segment, we do have a quick shout out here for those that are in the comments section. Let's see if there's anything going on with that.
nothing.
Nothing at the moment
Nothing.
here.
That's all right. Dead as a doornail tonight, man. But it is what it is. You know, a lot of people got things going on here in the next few days. I don't think we promoted really anything for this episode. We got a little busy. We didn't know if we were going to do an episode, and then here we are, just trying to make it
Here we go.
happen. So, whatever.
That's
We'll have a good time. We'll entertain ourselves as we normally do. So
That's
it's
what we
not a big
do.
deal.
Again, and we always gotta at least this I do this for myself pretty often, Miles, is that this is just us hanging out in the parking lot. Something that we would normally do
This is
anyway.
how it's
This is
always been. Even if we didn't have this thing live, it would still be us making this same show
yep.
and just showing it to ourselves later on for
Oh,
some
that
odd
just
weird
having
reason.
fun though. Again, just
So
again, this gives us a chance to hang out, you know. So
yeah.
again,
So
one friend to another.
all right. So I think that kills everything for news. Let's talk next. We go on to our motorsports update. Again, our motorsports update is just a segment where we look into Nissan's current motorsports portfolio, its race entries, supported teams, and how they're doing. Mike, I think you're up first. Formula E, upcoming race tomorrow. What's going on?
That actually is true, though, Miles. So this next race, so Formula E, within the last 2 weeks, just to be clear, there has not been any new races in the last 2 weeks. The Like you mentioned earlier in the episode here, Miles, the next race is happening in Portland. This is a single race, one race in this weekend, and it is also the inaugural race in Portland. Specifically, this is happening at the Portland International Raceway. This track itself, 12 turns. It is a 2 mile circuit. There's a lot of variables for the teams with that any track that's new will bring to a team. It kind of levels the playing field because other than having actual data that the team can use in advance, they don't have that right now. So uh, I think this could be an opportunity for Nissan to, with the right strategy and the right engineers making adjustments to their car, it really will show uh, um, with how Nissan places at the end of the race. We know that from the last 2 races that Nissan they've made some improvements and upgrades to to their cars, and so we do know that they have pace, they have the power. It's been improved, but now it's time for them to capitalize on strategy. So this is really a good opportunity for that. Um, One other bit of information that has been announced since then, it isn't really race results, but it is pretty exciting, which is that the Formula E schedule for next season is bringing in Tokyo for a venue racetrack. And so this is very exciting. It'll be
Mm,
another first. here in its 10th season of Formula E in 2024. Uh, Tokyo, of course, man, what's not to say about Tokyo,
Yeah.
man? It's an exciting place. Uh,
Are they
they're
going to
saying
do it
here,
downtown? Is that what they're trying to do? Downtown Tokyo?
well, it says here, working to bring the race to the city to support zero emission strategy.
Yeah.
The major, if I had,
It's what a
if
hint is.
yeah, if I had to speculate of the what type of track it'll be, it would most likely be a street track, just by reputation of all the tracks of which Formula E competes on. They've always, the majority of them have been a street track. So that would be pretty cool. Streets of Tokyo, Formula E, dude. Dude, prepare for that. That sounds like a lot of fun, honestly.
Yeah,
So I'm
2024
excited
is
for
when we'll
this.
see that. Yeah. Or potentially. Yeah.
Yep. They say March 30th, 2024. So we're less than a year away from
Wow.
this type of this new track. So man, that it sounds like a lot of fun though.
That's
Want to
pretty
share
cool,
it with
man.
you guys,
So,
and we'll keep you posted for more.
all right.
That's Formula E. Miles, I know we. So I should preface this, which is this episode is kind of crazy because as opposed to last episode, we had so much motorsports
We had
update
so
to
much
give.
racing content, and then
So
all of a
much.
sudden, and I don't know, I feel like all motorsports in general has this like lull about this time of the year where it just like gives everybody a chance to break, if you will, call it like a they call it. I've heard people call it like mid break and a couple of other things.
Summer break, yeah.
Well, it's not summer break, but it's like mid break, and this is
Mid-season.
mid season break, yeah. So, and I feel like this is happening across the board for everything, and it's just that time. Maybe it's the hottest time of the year or something
It
like that.
is.
I don't know,
Well,
but
weather is
so
definitely a factor right now. Yeah.
weather could be a factor. So, on that note, let's talk about Super GT. For you that were with us last time here, episode number 68. We were talking about Super GT, which was nuts in a sense. We had round three at Suzuka. That was actually on 6-3 or 6-4 earlier this month. And we had racing in the 500 and 300 series, obviously going on 500 with the Zs, 300 with the GTRs. I will say that number 23, the Moto Altic Z, was having a normal a normal qualifying, and then they were out to just kind of really kill it for the race. Fortunately, they suffered a very horrific accident in the number 23 car being driven by Matsuda at the time. Fortunately, he had no serious injuries, but it is kind of it is a time where they're having to rebuild that unit, that number 23 car, which it's kind of working in their favor because we don't have another race that is going to be happening until 8-5 and 8-6. That's going to be round four in Fuji. So there is this
Mhm.
downtime. Thankfully, Nissan has this downtime to put back that car number 23, get it all done with the testing, and then, of course, get it in to the next round of racing and qualification. So, yeah. So
They're gonna
that's
need
what
some time after that last
they'll
accident.
definitely need some time. And so that's pretty much what's happening with Super GT. So we've got some lull time. I think we're going to have maybe one, maybe two more episodes, probably three more episodes until Super GT comes
Over a month
around.
away. Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit of good time. So we have some time. You can check out all the action and updates, of course, through supergt.net, or you can just continue to follow our Facebook page or Instagram page, and we'll give you updates as we move forward from there. Sentra and Micro Cup that happens in Canada. Same thing, no news to report right now. Next round is actually going to be round 3 and 4. That'll be happening on July 9th. If you want to check out information on the Sentra Cup in the downtime that you have right now, you can check that out at centracup.com. Um, Going on with no news is news right now. Nissan Challenge we can is our grassroots initiative where we try to promote the Nissan Challenge, which we absolutely love. Those guys are definitely are balling on a budget, and we always want to try to support them and their efforts. Right now, they just don't have a race, so there is no news to report. Their next race will actually be round 5, September 17th, and that'll be at Button Willow Raceway Park. You can continue to check out them through Corner Motorsports.
Corner 3
Corner
Motorsports.
3 Motorsports.
Yeah. Yeah.
And definitely it's always fun to kind of check out what they're doing. Because those guys are just they always have great photos. They're starting to
Yeah.
finally get some really good content and some videos. We tell them there's not enough. So we always want more. So hopefully
Always
they'll start,
pushing.
they're always pushing them to do definitely more stuff. So that's kind of everything I've got for all three of those
Yeah.
series right now. I don't
Yeah.
know, Mike, if you've got anything else.
I do. I do have a couple more. The next one is regarding essentially the series that I cover, which is GT4 America. This is our first year covering this series because it is the new Z, specifically the GT4 spec Z, that has an entry in this series, and that is being coordinated with Tech Sport Racing out of Virginia. So let's go ahead and get into it here. I will share my screen once again here on this. Round 7 and 8 just took place on June 11th and 13th. This was happening at, yeah, once again, Virginia International Raceway, VIR, otherwise known. The Tech Sport Racing team, and they are working um, with support on-site support from Nissan and Nismo engineers. It definitely is a massive effort from Nissan, Nismo, and Tech Sport to really get this new Z into fighting shape. This is very much their first year. Many are calling it a building year. There's a lot to learn, a lot to improve. Uh, what's the word?
Improve upon or
Improve.
opportunities for
A lot of
success.
a lot of opportunities for success with
Yes.
this new Z. So this is definitely the year that is being done. These are the only two Nissan Z GT4 cars in the US, and so we are very much fans of them. We support them 100%. The two cars that we're talking about, though, first off is the number 22 car, which is driven by Eric Powell and Colin Harrison, and then you have the number 23 car, driven by Brian Highcotter and Tyler Stone. Again, great group of guys. We've had the opportunity to meet them while they were at Circuit of the Americas just last just last month, May
Yeah.
19th and 21st.
You
So
saw you saw Brian there. He said he was unfortunately he was sick as a dog and he was still racing,
Ah,
right?
he was under the weather. I don't know how massive it was, but or how great it was, but I mean he definitely uh, was taking care of himself and being mindful around others.
That's
But
good.
very much, uh, man, he dude
You you
love
gotta
his
love that
job,
guy.
do his
He's
job.
always I love Brian. He's always has that killer spirit. So yeah, we'll definitely continue to monitor him. Any other news going on, like other than the upcoming races? Anything else to report from the inside?
As far as some insight, not so much. Honestly, I mean we've had a. I should say this at Virginia International Raceway, similar to what we did here at Coda. There was a Nissan car corral
Nice.
at VIR. A lot of our Nissan friends along the eastern coast, even further, you might say the Midwest, traveled to Virginia to be a part of it, and it sounds. And I didn't expect anything different though, man. The Tech Sport Racing team is so hospitable, so nice. They brought in or allowed a few of them to come in and kind of stay in the shadows, stay in the corners, be able to get some really close observations of how this team works, and just being around obviously a car that we're so passionate about.
Isn't that
Um,
crazy? Like, just think about that for a minute. You know, you've got people traveling from all over the country, of course, for a race series, but a lot of these people, this is kind of their entry into the series, and they know that they've got a flag, you know, to basically get under. And
yeah,
so, they're huge Z and Nissan enthusiasts that just show up from all over the country just to make sure this team has the support, the fan base support that they need. And then for the team to make themselves available and an open door policy in regards to you know, being able to talk to the teams, being able to see the cars. I mean, it just speaks volumes. I mean, you're just doing it right,
It,
just
y-
'cause that
yeah.
is not always the case. I can tell you right now, when you're a fan of a race
W-
team or a
w-
particular car, and then you go and like, yeah, 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 we get it. You're
well, and
don't cross the barrier. It's just like,
yeah, it's true. They're like, "Hey, stay behind the velvet
yeah,
rope,"
yeah,
you
yeah,
know? Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So, and we know this, Miles, is that the Nissan Z fan base is
Community.
very strong in the U.S. and very tight knit still. We've got well over 50 clubs, Z clubs, that are underneath the Z Car Club Association, the ZCCA, all over the country,
Yep.
and many of these clubs have tens to hundreds of members in each area. So the fan base is strong, and yes, when there is a call to action, when you've got that one uh, club president or director sound the horn and say, Nissan fans unite, man, support the team that we love so much. We do it and we show up. And it seemed, we did that at Circuit of the Americas, and it was no different at VIR as well.
Yeah.
A huge showing of love to the Nissan teams and to the car that we like so much. I do want to mention real quick though the results of that race. By the way, specifically, we'll just kind of get into the two races. Race one happened on Saturday evening. Both cars did cross the line. Number 22 car finished 27th overall, seventh in its class. And then you've got the number 23 car finishing 32nd overall and 10th in its class. So we are near the back of the pack. But again, it's not about, in my opinion, what we're learning this year is really getting that base, finding that our competitive edges and adjustments. I should mention this. A lot of that conversations that we're having right now, we just had a few weeks back. We released a lot of content relative to GT4 in the
Mhm.
last 2 weeks. For those who want to know more about Nissan, Nismo, and the GT4 series, go to our YouTube channel and check out our interviews with the Nismo engineers and Nissan engineers, and also the Nissan drivers. They provided a lot of insight about the cars. We were very fortunate to get those interviews. Our last episode, we spent half the show talking about it as well. So for
Yeah.
anybody who wants to get caught up and kind of get a crash course into what GT4 is about and what Nissan's doing, definitely check out those videos. Um, Second race was on Sunday morning. The number 23 car finished 26th overall, seventh in its class. However, it was the number 22 car at the time, driven by Eric Powell, who did not finish the race. It was right about close to midway through the race. There was contact with another car.
Mm.
By all appearances, the suspension was damaged. Car was taken off the track. Eric Powell did go to the on-site medical building to
Is he
be
okay?
looked over. Clean bill of health. He was able to leave rather quickly.
Nice.
Now it was in the all of this was televised, right? The camera teams, they know what to do. They're standing in front, waiting outside that medical building, trying to get that that interview when emotions are high, And I gotta say though, man, and having met with Eric before, man, he, he he's a badass though, man. He'll let you know, he'll be as diplomatic as possible, but you still sense again his sense of um his truth in it all, But he did say a number of times in the interview it was disappointing to have had that happen. The other car that was involved in the collision, um, uh, I think they've maybe know of each other as well. So,
Mm.
but anyway, again, we wish them luck into the next race. The next race is happening at Road America in the Midwest. That is happening August 18th through the 20th. So what is that? That's 2 months from now. So yeah,
Yeah.
we've got some time in between now and then. So
Well,
yeah,
we were talking about potentially getting an interview with some of these folks, if downtime permits, and we're not cutting into anything that's important or fundamental fundamentally important to the team or team development. We do not want to challenge that. We want these guys to try to have the best season that they can. But if things
Yes.
work out where we can snag an interview or something like that, we will definitely let you know as things develop. We'll try to let you know, and then we'll obviously promote that so everybody can be online to make sure you're asking all your questions and getting all the insight that you're looking for from those folks in the interview, and of course everything we can make available to you. So.
Yep. Yes. Um, Last up, man. This is really not so much of an update, but definitely a shout out. And Miles, we've met this gentleman before. Of course, we are talking about Austin
Oh
Hurdle and
yeah,
his
Austin.
370Z. Yeah,
Uh,
man.
it's a good guy.
Oh, awesome guy. I love this car too, man. Again, it's uh, nice setup. I love the livery on it,
Mhm.
and down to earth guy. He competes in the Grid Life Touring Cup,
Mhm.
and as of late, he has had some really good finishes. At the moment, the
Nice.
actual positions escape me right now, but I was noticing that his finishing at the most recent Grid Life competitions have been very good. He's definitely showing off the Nissan capabilities, and we definitely want to give him a shout out. You know what we should do again, Miles, is that I'll go ahead and include. If we don't have enough series already, we need to include GLTC Grid Life into our our
You
list.
know, I don't mind. We make racing that much more compact, and we just do that because
Yeah,
I mean, you know, and I know we both have a soft spot for SLB and Grid Life.
we do.
So Super Lap Battle and Grid Life, we've been watching that since the beginning, and we've gone to the
I've
local
gone
events for that since the beginning. And for
since the
me,
beginning.
it's like you know, it's one of my favorite things to attend every year,
Yeah,
along with anything that, of course, Nissan's doing officially. But yeah, I would love to just make sure that we're helping out Austin in any way. Maybe one of these days we'll get him on the show, and we'll just kind of maybe he could talk about a year in review. I don't know, just we're spitballing, so maybe.
that that would be really cool. I think we definitely we've met him before.
Hmm.
Awesome guy. I'm sure he would uh that would be a fun opportunity for us, man. Great guy. And that's what I've noticed too. You did kind of hit on it for just a second there. As part of our motorsports segment, we do a lot regarding what Nismo and Nissan are involved in. Again, they're supported teams, but it seems like we seem to be catching up on the grassroots aspects a lot more, dude. Because you think
So
about
we
it,
are.
Sentra Cup, Nissan Challenge, GLTC. And we're in it, man. We've seen these races. We follow them. I think we're getting more and more
Traction.
versed, more traction with
Yeah.
these series. So I really enjoy it, man. We need to do that. We need to continue to do
You know,
this.
I enjoy what we do. Not to toot our own horn, but you know, we definitely aspire to making sure that all the local or news or the even the grassroots based here in the United States or even in other countries. If again, Canada is what we're trying to cover right now. If you have racing that's happening in your neck of the woods and there's Nissan is branded in it officially, or even unofficially, like if you've got a group of Z's that are out there just burning up rubber in Australia, let us know about it. I mean, we'd love to promote that stuff. We want to make sure that we know that we let everyone know how far the brand goes, and that's what we're here to do. We're lovers of the brand, we're lovers of the models, everything from Datsun, Nissan, Infinity. That's what we do. You know, that's what we harp upon, and that's the whole reason why we have this. You know, this megaphone of a podcast. You know, this is what we're here for you. So you let us know what we need to be talking about, and we'll definitely make it so. So again, thanks to Mike for promoting or speaking in regards to that one. Again, a shout out to Austin and all our other racers that we just talked about. Keep it up, keep it strong, keep it on the track, and stay safe, guys. So let's go into our next segment here. We are celebrating something. You know, it's not today. Today is 6/22 for the books, of course, episode 69. But there's something else that's special for you and I. We are a lover of this specific model, and it recently Nissan, we'll call it Datsun 620 Day. officially passed over the last few days, and you and I, we send back photos and images of six. We try to out 620 each other on our own personal thing, and we're all, in other pages. I'm always looking for cool 620 ideas, because we've been lovers of this vehicle for this truck for so long. I know you actually got one before I even got one, um, and I had to rally around your campfire before I bought my own. So, yeah. Oh, you're muted, buddy.
I'm sorry, man. It's funny you mentioned that too because I was just having a memory. My 620, which I still have, I bought it over 10 years ago. This is 2023 marks 10 years that I bought it. New Year's Day, nonetheless. We bought this car and this truck, and yeah, I tell you what, man, it's been uh, a fun ride with this truck. We've done so much with it. I've gotten a lot of enjoyment out of it, and it's actually the vehicle I've owned the longest, for me anyway. And we could talk about it some more as well. But like you said, yeah, it's 620 day just this week, and part of our back alley chat segment that we want to share this
It's
episode is going
and
to be.
we're going to celebrate the 620 basically and all its greatness. We do it once in a blue moon, but because we're such 620 fanatics, I guess, if
We
you
are.
want. It's a weird thing that we're fanatical about that. I mean, it doesn't have the same lineage. It's like this underrated vehicle. And then there's some styling aspects about it and some really cool things about it that we just absolutely loved, and it triggered us. And now
Yep.
we're fanatical about them. So,
Yeah.
for those that don't know, give them a history lesson on the vehicle, Mike,
Let's go
on the
for it.
truck.
Yes, I thought this was really important. So for those that are with us that aren't familiar of what the 620 is or what it's about or any of its stats, let's go ahead and start off and give you a bit. So the 620 is a compact pickup built by Nissan, and for us in the U.S., otherwise known as Datsun at the time. It's actually the fourth generation of Nissan's compact pickup. It was produced from 1972 to 1979. Nissan produced its first compact pickup for the U.S. in as early as 1959, believe it or not. Um, we've been essentially Nissan's been selling trucks in the US. At that point, you do the math, 64 years
Yeah.
of Nissan pickups in the US. Prior to the 620, you had the 220, the 420, the 520, and then you get the 620. In 1980, we were preceded by the 720, and then of course we have the D21 hard body, and it wasn't until mid 90s that we began to see the Frontier badging come into play. And then let's not forget this is not a compact, but it would be the full size, which is the
Yeah.
Titan, which
Yeah,
was
Nissan started stepping into the full size country and the big boy pants, and then that's what it was. But we're talking about the mid size now.
yeah.
For those that don't know, of course, the 620 was also called the 1500 in other countries. We didn't want to leave you guys out, just so you know. We didn't forget about you. But again, you know, the it's funny. Like when I started getting into the 620, you find out that there was like you run into like little small groups of people like that are Datsun fanatics or Nissan fanatics or people that used to really work for Nissan or Datsun back in the day. You kind of meet those people and you
Uh-huh.
just kind of grill them and talk them. And one of my favorite stories, that I'm still trying to pin down is getting
Ooh.
these racers to talk about what I'm showing back here and these Baja races, like the Spencer
Oh,
Low vehicles. Those things are awesome, and I wish Amon Hall was on with us tonight, who's just fanatical about these 620s and that racing series,
yeah.
from those vintage years, and like with the Simmons vehicles, which is what this one is,
Okay.
Simon is, and of course the Spencer Low and all those amazing vehicles at that time. But my favorite story that I know to date, until something else surpasses it, is Mr. K used to drive around in a 620, and he would be wearing a cowboy hat.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
And he'd
Yeah.
be rocking a cowboy hat while he drove his 620 because he thought that that was just it felt very American for him. And
Mm,
I would have to agree. So every time I'm like ever in a 620 or I'm driving it, it just kind of I don't know why I think about that. It just brings a huge smile to my face. I think Johnny Gable, who was the secretary for Mr. K, kind of told me that story when we were just having a drink one night long time ago, and she said
yeah.
that he was just infatuated with that particular vehicle for a short time. So yeah, it's pretty funny.
I think that's pretty awesome, man. Um, it's cool, and we'll get into this. I know one of the things we wanted to talk about was that a lot of the similar components were used with the 620 as the Z car. They both shared an L series engine, for example.
Yeah.
One was a four cylinder, the other one was a six cylinder. But we got more on that later. Um, you mentioned the pickup itself. Its entries into motorsports. Even there were a few variations of the pickup.
Mhm.
For us, we have the single cab, which was the most plentiful
Yeah.
model, I would imagine. The more sought after at this point was, at least on the streets,
The
is
king
the King
cabs.
cab.
Yeah.
The King cab, yeah. And I it wasn't until
Are you gonna
last
run?
year.
You have a gallery that we should be running in the background,
I
don't
do,
you?
I do. I
So
Yeah.
we had the standard cab, we had the king cab, and then we also had a run of Chinook campers that went for a
Yes.
while. Now that's just talking in generalities, but there was also the standard rear-wheel drive and the 4x4 versions as well.
The 4x4.
So yeah, and we have a gallery that's kind of running, and this is just a collection of our own personal photos, some old advertisements, some vehicles that inspire us,
Our
or
fans
just
photos that we asked,
yeah,
I
just
should have mentioned, we asked to submit fans to submit, and they did,
and this
so
is
they
what they
are
sent
included.
us, a
Yes.
combination of their favorite 620s that we'll just kind of let run in the background. I There you go, Chinook. Those things, like for the longest time, you could find them. Now they're unicorn horns. They're hard to find, man. So, if you are a lover of these, I would say you definitely want to probably pick one up and just stash it away in mothballs and then figure out what you're going to be doing at it. Now, we talked about all the variations of the models, but there was also special editions. There was a little, and most people know this if you know the model, a little Hustler edition.
Hmm. Yep.
Yeah,
That
and that came out with a while, obviously for the stickering and things like that. And apparently it was like the package that you could buy, and I think and this is me piecing it all together because at the time I was I was not even born at that point, but not trying to show my age, I was close but I wasn't quite
you
there
were
yet.
close.
I was close. I was just banging on the door, if you will, on the sack and just trying to get out. That's probably too much information, but
Let's,
needless to say, I want to say that was probably like, let's just call it what it is, prehistoric Nismo,
yeah,
maybe,
yeah. Well, we know that the
or
620 was in motorsports, was involved.
yeah, that would be motorsports. Would it be a version of that? I don't know. Interesting.
Well,
What would be akin to like,
technicality, akin. That's probably a good word
uh, yeah,
to use.
maybe
Yeah, yeah.
cool
Um,
stuff.
a few other stats here regarding was the engine, of course, like we mentioned, it was the L20B four-cylinder engine, carbureted. Most of the 620s, most likely, if they haven't been swapped by now, had the four-speed transmission.
Yeah,
Us as enthusiasts, and
but
we'll
you
tell
want
you
that
why.
five. You
You
want
want
that
the
five.
five-speed, and for good reason on that one. Personally, I still have the four-speed in mine. Your cruising speed, and or to comfortably
I
drive.
could have gotten you a 5 speed, brother. I keep telling you,
I
let's
know, I
get you a
know.
5 speed.
It's about 65 miles an hour. Meanwhile, the five-speed can probably get you up to 80s in general, man.
No,
More modern
That's
speeds.
15 miles an extra, 50 miles an hour
That's a
extra.
lot.
I'm telling
That's
you,
a lot, man. It really does.
that day
It
and
does play
age.
different.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what?
Uh,
I apologize. We forgot all those options. I forgot there was a 4 door. Did we not mention that?
no, we didn't.
There was a super rare 4 door edition.
and I don't think those were available in the US. Every time that I see a four-door 620
Where's
pickup,
that at?
it's always like in the Middle East somewhere.
Eh,
Like,
okay.
yeah, I've seen restoration videos or car wash video. You see
On a
something on social
four-door,
media.
and it's a full four-door? The bullet side goes all the way down the
It's a
side?
bullet side four-door Datsun 620. Yeah,
Man,
I would love to see one, much less have one in the US. That would be such a
okay.
piece to share at Nissan car shows, without a
That's very
doubt.
cool. All right. So basically we had the 4 speed, we had the 5 speed, and then obviously everyone knows that the 620 gave way to the 720, which for those that don't know, it was built in Tennessee at the Smyrna plant, or one of the location. I think it was the location, which was solely built at the Smyrna plant in Tennessee. The 720, maybe full circle.
720 was the first for sure, and then of course it, if not soon after, future models. I've seen a lot of front wheel drive vehicles come out of the Smyrna plant as well.
Okay. Very
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
So
And I know we've touched on it just a little bit, Miles. So to kind of share, if we haven't shared in a while, what we personally, our personal opinions of this truck was for me myself. I have a 79 year model 620. Uh, it had factory AC, which was a rarity. When I bought it, it worked. Even to this day, I'm sure if I add a little Freon to it, it'd still be just fine. Again, I had it for 10 years. It was my daily driver for about a year and a half, man. And you got to imagine, this was not too long ago, less than 10 years from now. And that was the only vehicle that I had, man, and this thing was so reliable, dude. I was very, very impressed by this truck, and having gotten around and put some real miles on it, and it, I'll tell you this too, of all the vehicles, and this is amazing to me, of all the vehicles that I've owned, and this includes Z's, various generations of Z's, and others. I have never gotten so many thumbs up, horn honking. They get your attention, giving you the thumbs up on the road than I have driving that 620, and that's the God's honest truth on that one, man. It's so cool. I think, truthfully, um, everybody's got a Datsun story. It seems as though everybody I know or strangers come up to you with a Datsun story, and oftentimes it's the 620. Someone had an uncle, or whatever the case may be, and they're happy to share it with you. So I've had such a great experience with this truck, and uh, again, that's what today's about: is giving it some love.
yeah.
You know.
What's funny is I went a different direction. I just started buying in quantity for some weird reason.
Yeah.
Like I bought my first one, and I just decided to go. I've done the massive car projects that I know are going to take me like 2 or 3 years, and I was kind of done with that. I would just do these quick flips for like 3 or 6 months with Z32s and everything else. But for some reason, I wanted to do something extremely different and extremely fabricated. So I said, you know what? I'm going to buy one of these 620s, and I'm going to put a VG30 DE non-turbo, 5 speed and all, brakes and all into that car. And that's kind of what it's been for me. I've been doing a fabrication job, getting the frame fully developed, and that's really what I've been kind of pouring a lot of myself into on that car, and just having fun with it, not really having a massive budget, but just having real fun with the car. I'm
Yeah.
doing something that really no one has ever done before, or very few. But while I was doing this project, like, I started meeting like all these people from other parts of the country. Like, I've got a few friends that are based out of France, that are
Oh
actually
wow.
huge fans of the 620, which they didn't get there. So they actually had to import their cars. And then from there, also had to buy all their parts and everything else. So it's not, they have the rarity of that vehicle there, not like here, where it's like there's actually still quite a lot of these vehicles around. I feel like they amass around like the Washington area, a lot, because there
Oh
was so many California dealers that were
yes.
along the West Coast. So you still see a few
Well,
of them in
that's where it
California.
began. Yeah, everything was
Yeah,
permeating
yeah. So
from
you
the
see,
West Coast.
yeah, so you see a lot of them in Oregon and Washington. I mean, some of them are a bit rust buckets, but but there are tons of 620s in those neck of the woods. I feel like there's still a lot if you're really hunting for these. Yeah, you want to hunt in like Arizona, New Mexico, West Texas. There's still quite a bit of these. Other than that, I don't know where else to tell you to go hunt for these. I mean, they're all over the country. I mean,
Yeah.
and you can kind of
Wh-
still find them, but I feel like in the last few years, they went from really being like $1,000 to being like $5,000 $6,000, and I think they're kind of
Yeah.
going to be what the 240 is. It's they're just going to shoot up, and
Yeah.
then
Yes.
you also take into consideration that it was a 620, so a lot of these vehicles weren't put in garages. They weren't.
Yeah.
They were pretty much
Y-
farm
You
vehicles, so they had rough
farm
lives,
trucks,
and then they were kind of
utilitarian.
parked on the side of the barn and replaced with the newest, latest, and greatest.
Yeah.
So if you get a chance and you see one out there, buy it. You know, if you're really in, if you want to get into these vehicles, if whether you want to restore one or you want to just kind of take them and modify it and customize it in your own way. But that's what I would recommend. Now, we'll talk a little bit about options and all the modifications. But that was my own personal story. I mean, I
Yeah.
loved working on the car with you.
Yeah.
Working on your vehicle with you. I got a great experience with it. I worked on Ion's car, who also has a 620.
Also a 620 owner.
It's
Yeah.
one of those weird vehicles that we all own together, and it's weird. Like a lot of Z32 guys just ended up buying 620s here in Texas. I don't know if that's the same for the rest of the country. Anybody's there that can chime
Everybody
in
needs someone
or
to
chime
haul
in.
some
If you want
tires
to haul like engines or car parts that, and you
in
were looking for an
style.
amazing in style and have an awesome beater, that's the 620 is the ride for you.
620.
But that's kind of been my personal take on it. It's just kind of been I would say you opened that world up kind of to me, and then I've just kind of been experienced just a landslide of just really cool stories from other folks, and I've enjoyed working on it myself and getting insights and feedback from you guys. But
Yeah.
I know
Yeah. Yeah.
you have a 79, and
Yes.
yeah,
S- So, and that's one thing too for anybody who wants to know more about the 620s, and much less again, we're nerding out. It's the 78 and 79 year models. In my opinion, are the models you want to go after the most. And one of the primary reasons behind that is that the 78 and 79 year models had front disc brakes, and very much improved because prior to that, you had four wheel drum
yeah.
brakes. Um, I Oh man, I can't imagine what front drum brakes are like, man. I haven't driven in one in a very long time, and probably for a good reason because it probably scares the bejesus out of you, if especially if it's not been maintained or. Um,
Well, calm down.
Granted,
It wasn't like
granted,
throwing an anchor out the window
that's true.
and just
Well,
and praying. I
yeah,
mean, there were still brakes that were viable. They weren't the greatest. Like when you mashed on them, you're like,
yeah,
you know,
yeah. But you bring a good point too because you didn't really need, as opposed, you
you
probably
didn't.
didn't need much
You were
stopping power
rocking a truck.
anyway. Yeah,
You were looking for friction contact and trying to hold something for carrying loads or going down embankments. The drum brakes actually probably weren't that bad,
they
but when you were looking for something that was traveling at a higher rate of speed and you needed clamping force and to
yeah,
stop at a time,
yeah.
quick,
Well, and
I would say let's not argue drum
yeah.
brakes versus disc brakes right now, but
well,
yeah,
well, you said a key word, which was high rate of speed, and which we've already established that the Datsun 620 in stock
eh,
form didn't really have a
it's
high rate of
cruising,
speed.
man. Like you
But
just that's the vehicle you want to get to if you're inner city or you're just at a point in your life where you're not trying to go fast. You're just trying to be chill and cruise
cruise,
and be cool.
yeah. But
So
also, you mentioned that the 620 didn't need much stopping power to begin with because it was a very, very light vehicle.
yeah,
Granted, it's built out of steel as opposed to whatever composite or
good
aluminum,
steel.
etc. The good steel. The title has a weight of 2,300 pounds.
Yeah,
It's a very light truck. You can push it. Like if you had to move it,
we
you can do
pushed a
it by
lot of them.
yourself.
I
Yeah,
pushed and pulled a lot of
it's
620s.
it's cake. It's really not that bad, and it's because they're so light. And so when you tack on how lightweight it is, how simple it is to work on in stock form, my personal opinion is that's been very, very reliable. vehicle. The only time I got stranded, and I wish my buddy George was online right now. The only time I've ever got stranded in my 620 is because I realized that I ran out of gas. And that's just my own stupidity, man. Because other than that, that Datsun did phenomenal the entire time that it was my only vehicle, uh, for sure. And I should mention one last thing too, is that because a lot of these components were shared and belonged to the L series engine, that was a very common engine of its time.
Mhm.
And even today, L series components against stock ones are relatively affordable to buy. So if you did, for anybody out there who's considering or have the opportunity to get a 620 project vehicle, simple things like brake lines, ignition wires,
Yeah.
coil, cap, rotor, these components are relatively affordable to grab as well.
Up until
Uh,
recently,
yeah,
there was a lot of availability aftermarket. Like you could literally go to Rock Auto and pretty much
yeah,
clean up. Like I
yes.
remember when I first bought mine, I went to Rock Auto and I spent like, I don't know, like $200 and I came back with a treasure trove of stuff. It's a little bit like that. There's still a few things that are available nowadays, but it's kind of bled off a little bit. And originally, because Thailand actually sold the 620 as the 1500 for a really long time. And that's where half the parts are coming from, based out of Mexico
Oh,
and Thailand. If you're still hunting for like rubber and glass and some sheet metal, that's where you would pull them from. And that stuff, when it first hit market, was like the windshield front molding. You could pick that
ooh.
thing up for like $9. Right now, it's like $68 or something like that. And you're like, for us people that knew the pricing, we're like, good lord. For other people were just like, man, that's cheap. And I was like, it was cheaper.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
it is what it is, you
It
know?
brings a good point though too, and I've seen a few memes like this. Of course, there are two types of Datsun owners, and it's Datsun owners with money and Datsun owners without money. And you can always tell which one they are based on how nice the build is, you know. And you got the ones,
I
yeah.
I'm yeah, I know, I get a little bit like, "I remember when a dime bag used to cost a dime," just like it's like, but no, I feel what you mean, but that's the beauty of it, everything with the car, it's been just kind of this ongoing development, but as the car becomes like, it can become like a nostalgic thing. People
Yeah,
pay for nostalgia, and it drives up value, and the scarcity of parts and things like that is just kind of crazy.
yeah,
You were asking me like, one of my favorite stories is,
yeah.
so when I first bought my, I was probably on my second 620 at the time, and I was like, hey, I need to start like just making sure that I have enough parts. So I'd buy make I'd find out if these people had like 620 stashes, all over the country. And I found this guy who had these like chrome bumpers, and he had two of them side by side.
Uh-huh.
And I think it was like Marketplace or eBay or something like that. I messaged him. I was like, "Hey, I'm really interested in your bumpers. By the way, do you have any other 620 stuff? I'd be interested in like seeing what you had." And he was like, "Are you really interested?" I was like, "Sure, of course. I'm serious. Yeah, duh." And he goes, "I have 29 chrome Datsun 620 bumpers." And it was like, "How interested are you truly?" And I was like, "You have that many chrome bumpers?" And he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "I used to own an aftermarket parts business, and we had this building and it caved in. These 620 parts were sitting there just, and I never got around to clearing out the rubble." And I
Mm.
remember I told you this,
Yes.
and so I called all the 620 owners that I knew, and I
Yeah.
kind of said this big megahorn, and I was like, "Hey fools, this is what's gonna happen. I know a guy who has the last stash of chrome Datsun 620 bumpers in the
Yeah.
country." I was like, "Who's in?" And so I put this massive, like, I don't know, buy it, group buy together, and I was like, "All right, everybody chip in, like, whatever I forgot what I got
It
them
was
for.
affordable. I know that
It
much.
was
Yeah.
affordable, and I remember I got them for like, I want to say I got them for like $55. I charged like $75 or something like that, just so I could cover my ends and
Cover
unboxing
your
everything
nut.
and rebagging.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to get rich on them. I just wanted to be able to, get whatever I wanted to get. I wanted to get first pick.
Yeah.
So I bought something like, you remember that when you came to my house and it
Oh.
was like there was like 25 chrome bumpers there on the floor, and
Yes.
you're like, he's going crazy. And I was like, no, it was just I picked out the ones
Wha
that I wanted. And so
Yeah.
I still have like a personal stash of
I,
like 4 chrome bumpers. I think I hooked up Ion with like 4. I
yeah.
think you got 1 or 2 of them.
That's the funny story with me because what I remember so much about that time was personally, I didn't really see it. I was like, I don't need one. I mean, mine's not dented too bad. And then you
Yeah,
were so insistent. You're like, bro, you need one, and like you essentially persuaded me. And I have one. I have one. I think you wanted to sell me three. I got one. Just to
for the
what are friends
apocalypse, in
for?
case the apocalypse came down and you needed a car
Yeah,
part. I was like, bro.
yeah.
So, but yeah, that was like my funny story. I started doing that where I was buying these like caches of like car parts for the 620, and then that's when you know you're like fully addicted. You're like, ah, shit, I'm an addict. So that's what it is. So,
Yeah,
but yeah, that was my like my personal funny story, kind of laughing at myself.
yeah,
But let's go into some of the strengths of the 620.
yeah.
So, if you were buying this car back in the day, what were you kind of getting for your money?
Well, if you're asking me, I mean, you got to think about the time that it was 70s. I mean, this car
Ga-
did
gas
this truck
shortage.
gas shortage, right? And
Yep.
this truck was right at around that beginning. 1972 was its first year. So yes, you were looking for something fuel efficient, and this truck was probably one of the more fuel efficient pickups out there, I would argue. And again, combined with its lightweight, it was an efficient vehicle, relatively speaking, for its time. I, again, these pictures and these bills that we're showing with you guys here in the background, again, this might be a personal opinion though, but this truck was stylish. I mean, not only was it affordable, Datsun at the special time was an affordable brand, but when you look at it today, what other truck do you know is called a bullet side? Just based on its
Yeah.
styling. It's it's a beautiful truck in my opinion, and it stood the
Test of
test of
time.
time. Yeah. We mentioned its reliability. We've talked about its simplicity as well, and affordable parts for it. So I mean, very much a lot of its strengths for this pickup. Very durable pickup. And again, for those who find one at a deal, I would say if you're interested, don't even think about it. Just buy it. You'll thank yourself later. Honestly, that's what I did. Miles, you want to? Did I ever tell you how much I paid for my 620?
Mm-mm. How much you get it for?
This was back in 2013. $1,300, dude.
Nice. I bought
That's
mine.
yeah.
I bought my first one, and they were starting to climb, but I still got in early.
Yeah.
1,600 bucks, and it ran and drove on
Oh.
exterior wheels. So I was able to drive around the farm for a little while, and yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I sent you
Yeah.
videos when I got
Yes,
it.
you have.
I
Yep.
drove it
Yep.
around, and before I started dismantling it and everything, I took my brother
Well.
for a drive to go get ice cream or something. We went like down the mountain and went and grabbed ice cream, and I think we had a beer, not in that order, but and then that's it. We headed back up, and then I started dismantling it like a month later
Yeah.
because I'm got
That
like that.
that brings up a good point too, because one of the things that we wanted to talk about as far as this segment goes, which is modifications. So we've already talked about it in its stock form. This is very much a truck that's been modified. The aftermarket for this truck not only still exists, but I want to argue it's growing. It
I would
definitely
say
is growing.
it's definitely, it was in its infancy in the last 5 years, and it's just gotten really crazy as of late. Like it was always like easy to slam this car, and but guys are kind of doing everything from lifting the vehicle, um, off-roading and outlanding are huge right now. So people are
Yes.
modifying these cars, going up and going down, or keeping it historic. But let's talk a little bit about the options for modifying it, either going up or going
Yep.
down. So
Mm.
obviously there's raised suspension options, where you're taking other options from the 720, which had a lot more beefiness. And you're stealing parts and components for that. I would
Yeah.
highly recommend going online. This is where forums come in, and we're huge advocates for forum information
Advocates.
versus Facebook and YouTube information, because a lot of information gets lost. But if you go back in some of the really good old forums like Nico and I think even Hybrid,
Ratson.
Ratson,
.net.
have
Yeah.
really good information, um, for just modifications and stuff. It's kind of nuts because like nobody's replied on. Nobody's. There's a few guys holding the candles up for that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
and forums nowadays, and still contributing information. And my hat goes off to them,
Yes.
because those are the guys that are still giving out profound information, these huge wealths and pools of knowledge, that you don't
Hmm.
really take advantage of anymore. But
Yep.
again, one of my favorite memes is there's like this guy, and he's like praying to like this image of, I think it's like Buddha or something like that, and the image is the guy is standing there, and it says, "Me with my problem with my 20-year-old car," and the Buddha guy is an old forum guy from 15 years ago who fixed my issue back in the day, you know, and it's true. There was tons of information and tons of like back and forth, like, well, what did you do? What did I do? And like brainstorming. So if you get a chance, go back, support the forums, make a donation for the information that you found, because those guys
True.
need to keep the lights on, as it were, for those forums. So again,
Yeah.
just my harping on forums. But
Yeah.
again, as far as modification, there's tons out there. Lowering suspension, I would say
Yeah.
there are guys that, doing the old, I'm going to say the old mini trucking days, we would drop it on blocks.
The
So
blocks.
you could
Yeah.
do it on blocks. But the beautiful thing about the 620 that not a lot of people know is you can actually adjust the front suspension just on its own. So you don't really have to do any modification to the front of the vehicle. They have these beautiful like slide in and out options for the torsion bars, where you can actually drop that vehicle up to 2.5 inches, I
Yep.
think, and you can pretty much get it like to a nice, comfortable, low riding position. You can buy the blocks for the rear, and
Yep.
you can literally slam that vehicle for $60,
It's
I
not very
think.
much. Yeah.
Not
It's
very
pretty affordable.
much.
I
And I
think
was
the
like blown
only
away the first time that you could do that. It was just kind of crazy.
the
So, but if you want to go with a classier setup, there are options out there that are now doing like coilovers where you're using something like QA1 systems, or even airbag or air ride suspensions.
yep.
I mean, it really doesn't stop there. You got guys like Bibani Customs who are doing um, QA1 coilover systems, which is what I have on one of my frames. And
Yep.
then I'll probably do an air ride on another one, just so I can get the experience, or try to have the comparison between two. I'm just because I'm kind of bored like that.
Yeah.
Fender flares, back in the day, it was really just one
It's
solid, off-road rally flare, and now there are tons of
there are
flares.
so many iterations of Flare.
There's
Yes.
tons. There's like Panda makes an amazing kit, and you'll see it come up here on the gallery. That purple Datsun that comes up, who makes an amazing fiberglass kit that is now
Yeah.
like skyrocketed. It used to be like a grand. Now it's like I don't even know how much
Yeah.
it is anymore. Now they want your firstborn, but it's still an amazing kit regardless. Wheels. We were stealing six lugs from old Centerline stuff, but now there's so much six lug that's out there because of the off-road and the outlanding market. There's
yeah.
tons of just amazing forged great stuff out there. So you got to
Well,
go.
I
Now let's talk about 5-speed swaps.
yeah. Again, that is a must in my opinion to have for that. Again, for to establish a cruising speed, in today's times, again, this truck is oh god, 79, 72. Okay, so it's 50 years minimum now that this truck's
Mhm,
been out. So you got to think about what the speed limits were like 50 years ago opposed to what they are today.
mhm.
And yeah, a 5-speed swap will kind of get you back up to modern times, and it essentially requires no modification
Yeah. So guys were
to
stealing the Datsun 5-speed. They were taking the 5-speed from the 5-speed 620s. And then they were also taking the oh Jesus, what's the other 5-speed that everybody wants? The 280ZX, the
two-
non-turbo.
280ZX.
Um,
Yep.
yeah, there's tons of 5-speed. If you want to get really crazy, you can start stealing another 5-speed from another platform and just making an adapter plate. They're out there. So like I'm
They're
telling you,
out
man,
there.
the sky's the limit. Brake upgrades are, man, forget it. They
Those
were
as
still in
well.
the Toyota single caliber stuff. They
Yep.
were the big popular one right now is the 300ZX brake. For some reason, everybody
Yes.
steals the Z32 300ZX brakes. They are like gold across the 240SX forums, across, the 240Z guys are stealing them now, or the S30 guys are stealing them
Everybody
now.
steals the Z32.
Everybody,
They're
but
very
the
period correct, and they're a good option. Yeah.
But the cool thing about it is they're repopping them now. So now you can find recasting of the Z32 stuff out there.
Oh,
So you don't
nice.
have to go hunt and don't pay those crazy prices. Because you can actually find them. Believe it or not, you can find recast options that are available now. You just kind of got to do a little hunting. You can find them through Rock Auto or eBay. There, I saved you about 150 bucks.
Nice.
Let's see here. Engine swap. Oh my God,
Oh
engine
God.
swaps are crazy. So everybody
Yes.
obviously has the original L4 option,
Yep.
but I think where it kind of started to get crazy was guys started sticking in the SRs early on, the SR20
SR20s.
DEs, especially
Yes.
the non-turbos, and then the DETs started getting crazy,
Yeah.
and
Go.
then the CA18, the baby Skyline motor.
Yeah. And going back to the SR20 is that they would combine the NA motor with their independent throttle bodies, which that
Oh
was a
yeah,
swap that I was very much looking
that was
into
so
because
nice. It
it
was
was so nice.
sick.
It was modern, fuel injected, and then it had that ITB setup, which kind of was a nod to that vintage. But it looks so good, and
Yeah.
that was one of the first swaps I had considered, if I ever did with this truck. Yeah.
But now it's crazy. Like people are starting to so I saw the V6, which we're talking Z31 V6, right?
Yeah.
Single overhead cam. You could fit it in this car with little modification
Yeah.
with no problem. Um, Me personally, I'm trying to do a VG30 DE, which is dual head cam, which is extremely wider. So I'm working through my own bag of squirrels for that. I'll get it. I'll let you know how it all works out when I'm done. But I mean, the sky's the limit. There's obviously guys sticking V6s, V8s. I heard there's somebody working on a VK, which is the V8 Titan motor.
Oh,
They're trying to stick that in there
too
with a
much.
350Z transmission.
Wow. Wow. And that's what I imagine. I'm just thinking about that engine bay and how much space that it has. I'm
You have a
assuming
lot. I
this.
mean, well, you can cut
Well,
away a lot.
you can cut away a lot. I'm assuming that there would be modification to the firewall in some cases. I mean, did you have any experience with that with your VG30 swap at all?
The problem that I'm having, and really this is the only problem. Everything on the passenger side, not a problem. Everything on the driver's side, the issue that I'm having is you've got that steering line that doesn't give you any option. It's just straight to the front assembly. So it's just like you have to work around it, and that's just where I'm at right now. So I have to modify the header to kind of tuck it all in, but on the
Okay.
passenger side. But the other thing too is I'm going to a coilover setup, so it kind of gets rid of all that torsion bar setup. So I get a really nice amount of real estate, and then I'll just run the exhaust out the sides or the back, and I'll figure that out as I go. But
Okay.
space is a commodity in some of these
Yeah.
is is some of these old vehicles. So that's just one of those things. I wanted to alleviate as much of non-essential stuff and really update everything to allow me to have the most availability of space in there. But I will say one thing. You know, you don't realize how big or how long that engine bay is. I mean, of course, the S30, you've got a really long amount of space. You can fit a VG30, and you can fit two VG30s
Shoot, you can
almost in
get
there.
inline six in that thing. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yep.
which makes up for it, but an inline four not so much. But the reality is, you once you put the V6 in there, you still have about I want to say it's about 14 inches till your radiator. So you actually
Yeah.
have a little bit more space than what you would get out of a Z32 if you
You
do
can
it
actually
right.
stand in front of the engine while still in the engine bay to
Maybe,
service. I
maybe, we'll see.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it's tight, but it's still good though. We'll see how it goes. Now,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
now let's talk a little bit about notable builds. Is there anybody that you want to give a nod out to for notable builds?
Ooh, ooh, good point. For me personally, I'll be honest, the builds that I've seen, um, they've it's all been aesthetic builds,
Okay.
you know? and in some cases it's really hard to tell whether it's a render or actual. I'll tell you what though, this Pandem kit we're showing here,
Mhm.
I remember when this came out. I actually saw this in person. This was 2016 at SEMA. That vehicle was there, that 620. So if I had to pick, the Pandem kit would probably be the one that I've spent a lot of time looking at. I don't think I would ever replicate it, but I do appreciate it for what it is. That is an easy choice. And then, other than that, in terms of engine swaps, there regarding the 620, there was a number of magazines back in the day. I I, I want to say I have two separate magazines out which had the same feature, which was a SR20 swap into a 620. And
Projectbuildsmagazine.com. Project Builds Magazine. It was episode number, or it was magazine number.
oh, here
Oh,
we
dude.
go. Here we go. This is the nerd
Sorry,
part.
sorry.
All right.
This is me. This is why we nerd
This
out.
is why
I'm
we're
telling
here.
you. This is why
Yeah.
we're here. This is what we do. But yeah, I know exactly which one you're talking about. And they were actually one of the six, first magazines that actually talked about doing that swap. And what I
They talked
loved
about
about that
everything.
and what I loved
Yeah.
about that magazine, and just a shout out to those guys, they had a short lifespan, but they taught you basically how to do everything on your engine. Like, hey, you're going to swap out this engine for this. They did a lot of Honda stuff, but they did do an excellent Datsun 620
They did.
um, episode where they actually, this is everything you need to know. This is how you need to modify this water pipe to work with this
Oh, the throttle
radiator
body cables. I
and the
remember they were
throttle
talking
body
about,
cables. Yeah, it
yeah,
was just for those that don't know, that is like,
an
you know,
awesome feature.
and you can find it online, but I think it's like half of it's gone because it's no longer supported through Photo Bucket or whatever it was at the time. But yeah, dude, like it got super nerdy, man. Like, so yeah, just to name a few, like these are my old magazines, like
Oh
just
wow.
old mini truck. I mean, I'm constantly hunting for like old Datsun mini truck stuff. So yeah, I'm weird like
Yeah.
that. Anyway,
Yeah.
but
Uh,
yeah, let's move on down the line.
yeah. Yeah, yeah,
As
yeah.
far
We
as
did mention, yeah, you
yeah,
mentioned Bibani Customs as being one of the most one of the modern aftermarket suppliers for the
yeah,
620. For anybody who's looking for additional aftermarket support for the 620. Amongst others, you can definitely look at Skillard, which is a company off the northwest part of the country. They provide a lot of sheet metal, um, laser cut, stamped, bent pieces. Very impressive pieces, actually. We've had a good friend Ben, who's the owner there, make some very nice pieces, door cards, floor heel plates, um, a variety of items that you really didn't even think you needed until you saw their catalog, and you're like, "Damn it, this guy's got it." So, Skillard is definitely one of those places.
the rear
Uh,
license plate piece. What else did he do?
yes, see,
The tailgate back panel piece, which is impossible to find nowadays. For some reason, it just all
there you
fell
go.
off the trucks at the same time. But
Did you
he
see
makes
that?
that piece. Yeah, 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 I got all that. I have a few of his things already. The door cards, the door filler pieces. Yeah, man, he's starting to make a lot of that kind of stuff. So
And this is a really good example for those who see the picture of us. You can see here on the tailgate that there is no back panel, even in this stock photo.
yeah. Mhm.
And for somebody to come up and provide you, later on they were available, but many years they didn't have this option. And for Sealer to come in and make that option available for you to sit yourself on the tailgate or place whatever components you needed. Uh, really, really clever piece to have and to offer. Apex Engineered is also one of the other suppliers. A lot of suspension components or aftermarket subframe components are available for this. And the last thing that we had thought to say regarding the aftermarket support is that, like we mentioned earlier, a lot of the components or even the theory behind how this truck operates can be related to the Z car. And so if you are needing some support on your 620, don't be afraid to ask your local Z technician or your local Datsun Z technicians. You might be surprised by what their answer is and how they might be able to support you with that. because of such similar components, if not the identically the same components uh, from there.
Yep.
Yeah. Any
Well, very,
we're wrapping up on this, man. What else?
yeah,
Anything else that we're
I think
missing?
that's pretty much all I had, man. We've talked about this. I mean, we definitely showed our true nerdy colors in regards to the 620, and
We did. We did.
I don't have a problem with that. We could, if you want to talk for another hour, we could talk about patina. Is it worth it to preserve your patina
You
versus
already know
we
my
have
stance.
arguments. We already have arguments about this all the time. I'm like,
Yeah.
it's like
Ye-
tasteful patina, yes, but
Ru-
versus
Rust is art,
non-tasteful.
bro. Rust is art.
Rust is art. It's nature giving you art, bro. All right,
You
but
ever have a tetanus shot? I
you ever
don't
have
have a
tetanus
license
shot?
plate called.
That's nature giving you an injection
Yeah.
of art, brother. Is it really? All right. So that's everything on the 620. Again, thanks for sticking with us through our 620 nerddom and, of course, celebrating 620 day with us. Now, we do need to touch up on a few things here before we wrap up the night. We just want to give a shout out to all the events that are happening in your local areas that have mentioned out to us. First up, Branson Zfesh, which actually just finished. They concluded here about the time of our last episode. We did
Yes.
want to give a shout out to the winner of the 350Z convertible raffle, which is actually Curtis Lee Davies,
Yeah, man.
who's actually also 620 owner, previous 620 owner,
Yep.
who's now sold his 620 for a 510. We won't hold it against you. I'm just joking. We love 510s as well. We just can't afford them. So he sold it for his 520, but he actually won the 350Z convertible raffle. So he's got a baller convertible 350Z and he's got a baller 510. So he's living his best life right now. So
For
kudos to
sure.
him.
For sure.
So
The next two meets, again, getting into this event segment, are both related to GTR and Skyline, and I'll go ahead and share them too. The first off is let's see here. It is the third annual Nissan Skyline Invitational. This is actually happening on June 30th. So, what is that? Next week. It is a nighttime meet, 6 to 11, Canton, Georgia, which is northeast of Atlanta. This event is hosted by Countersteer Garage and Speedgate Motorsports. The reason why I found this particular event is Countersteer. I've met with Countersteer in the past. Good group of guys. Most typically, I don't think we've ever really supported a nighttime event because typically we try to keep things um, as legitimate. We always think with nighttime,
it can get sideways. It
it can
can
get
get in trouble real
sideways.
quick.
Yeah, yeah. But I do recall really great people at Countersteer Garage, and so I really felt like this was my personal vouching for the guys. So third annual too, by the way. So great guys. Countersteer is much a kind of a drift oriented garage. Countersteer, the word itself, they're drifting type of garage. So we wish them the best of luck on that event. The again third annual Skyline Invitational on June 30th. The next event for Skyline and GTR Meet is the fifth annual Northeast Skyline GTR Meet. This is happening Sunday, July 9th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. in Milltown, New Jersey. If you remember, Miles, we actually promoted this last year. It seemed like a great group of people. I wonder if they still have their group photo down below, but the team itself seems to be putting together a really good show. They had an online store, and as you can see here on the website, a number of sponsors supporting this event. So it does seem like a really good event to go to. Uh, they do have a car show happening with trophies happening for many generations of Skyline, including the R30, R31, R32, all the way to R35. And admission is free this year. So if you are interested in seeing a really cool Skyline GTR meet and you are in the New Jersey area, check out Northeast Nissan Skyline Meet nissan.com. That would be the place for you to go. Those are my
Nice.
two. Mhm.
Is that it? All right. Let me see here. Is there? I guess the last thing that we want to mention is the upcoming ZCon. So ZCon 2023 will be coming up here soon. That'll be July 31st to August 5th in Ontario, California. That'll be happening for 6 days. You'll definitely want to check the schedule at zcon.org /convention /2023 schedule, or you can just check out zcon.org and follow it from
Best
there.
place. You're right.
Best
Yeah.
place to go from there. Nissan Nerd Podcast, of course, will be convoying. There is our hopes and dreams. We'll figure it out as we go. We got 38 days till this event pops off. You still want to make sure that you're registering and getting your hotels if you haven't already done that.
Absolutely, man. That one seems it's getting closer than we thought, man. We're getting
I
closer and
know
closer, man.
it's kind of crazy. So
I think we'll be all right though. I mean, that convoy, I think is half the fun, honestly, man.
oh
Personally, I've got a personal route. We need to see whether we can knock out, man. Have some fun as we drive out to LA this summer.
yeah.
Uh,
I did want to give a shout out, and this was just something kind of last minute, to the Mount Shasta Datsun Roadsters Club. This is just a
ooh,
small group of Datsun Roadster folks that are having their annual event actually right now while we're talking. So
oh,
they're
cool.
actually doing a Thursday, Friday, and Saturday event. So for any of those folks that are out there doing the Mount Shasta Datsun Roadster Run or the event, want to give
Hmm,
you want to wish you well and check those guys out. They look like they're having a blast. So again, it's a very small local event, but we wish them well and growth as it kind of goes through. The pictures look awesome. They look like they're having a blast. So
badass, man. Well, I'll be honest. That wraps up events. What we always say here, guys, near the end of the show, of course, is that we are on all social media outlets. Facebook seems to be where we spend a lot of our time. However, our Instagram is growing and our YouTube channel is growing. Specifically, our last few episodes, we've been actually obviously these podcasts are long form. This is typically at this point we're almost at 2 hours. What we've been doing lately with our YouTube channel is cutting them up into each individual segment. So you've got a Nissan news article or a motorsports update itself, kind of into bite-sized chunks. About 5 to 8 minutes at a time. So if you're looking to have some content kind of while you're driving or while you're eating lunch and it isn't 2 hours long. Again, go to our YouTube channel. If you just search Nissan Nerd, you can find us and definitely press the subscribe button, add notifications. This podcast will be on our YouTube channel, and also many of its segments will be in that. And of course, we are on all major uh, podcast networks, the audio version of this show. You can find us a full catalog, especially the audio version. Essentially, every episode is on our audio version because this is how this podcast started. We were an audio only show, and it wasn't until about episode 20 or so that we actually started growing and getting more into the
people
video
people said
portion.
they wanted to see this face. I don't know
Yeah,
why.
yeah. Like, are you
We were
sure?
faces for radio people, and you wanted this, and now you get
You asked
we're
for
not
it. Now
going
you
back.
got it.
I
Yep.
can't. I'm not going
Can't.
back on this green screen. You know what? This blew our budget for 2022.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
We're going. There's no way we're going back into the darkness on this one, guys.
We're not going back into our caves
Yeah.
of our
Yeah.
garages. That's it. We've come too far. So you're stuck
Yeah.
with us at this point until we
Yeah.
evolve to something new. Until it gets virtual, where you can reach out and touch us. So. Yeah. On that note, with reaching out and touch us, we're gonna go ahead and call it for the night. Again, like, share, subscribe. Make sure you contact us again through social media, YouTube. You can email us info@nissannerd.com just to drive that home again.
Yep.
Other than that, Mike, I've got nothing else, man. I want to thank everybody for being on. The few people being on with us here tonight. Again, we didn't really promote it. Me and Mike just wanted to kind of have a relaxed night where
Of
we could
course.
talk about would nerd out which is what we
We
did
did.
tonight.
That's exactly what we
So
did.
we had a good nerd out night, and I'm happy about tonight. Thanks for being on with me, Mike. I love you. And
Same here, man.
I just want to give a shout out to everybody again. Thank you. Until then, until the next time we see you, get in your garage, make something cool. I always like you better when you're in your garage. So
Cool, man. For those who have anything left with you guys, let's go ahead and send this thing off with a kanpai. Miles, if you have something with you,
I got a little left. Yeah.
a little bit left. All right, guys. Join us again. Kanpai. We'll
Kanpai.
join you on the next episode. Let's go for it, guys.